Well, hello there, podcast listeners. You're hearing my voice, which means that I'm back, and I'm sorry about that. And if you're also hearing my voice, that also means Joe's not here because I'm doing the intros, which I'm also sorry about that. But I am back from my 1 week excused absence because I went and supported a local team to St. Louis, soccer team. It was sort of an exciting game. I didn't like the tie 0-0. Pretty disappointing there, but they did clinch to make it into the playoffs. So that was kind of cool at the end of it all. And it was a really good game, honestly, overall. It's just the 0-0 thing I can't get over. I have to thank the person who ended up giving me the tickets, Brian. Really appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Had several beers with my European friend who loves soccer and was trying to convince me it's better than football. And it didn't work because it's 0-0 and football.
It's a different game, to be honest. It's like a slower tactical game that's constantly moving. Like that's the upside to it. But yeah, the downside is it can end 0-0 and it feels like you didn't actually watch a game. But
if I'm being completely honest, though, our offense, that is the St. Louis FC, their offense was very stagnant. Like we had the ball the whole game, and then LA was super explosive, just came out and had like multiple opportunities where they probably should have scored. St. Louis, on the other hand, had a couple opportunities, but it just felt so slow. Like we needed more, like, and I'm talking about for soccer, not because of the sport itself, but like just they didn't have that pop to them. They were like waiting for people to make cuts. Nobody ever made cuts. It was just weird. But regardless, it took away the draw.
One seed in the West, man. That's all that matters. One seed in the West.
Anyway, we'll get into real football now. I feel like that's probably a long enough time to talk about soccer on this podcast.
Real football. I love that. But yeah, so on to week 4. Still no bye weeks, which I used to think for some reason there was week 4 bye weeks, but I don't know. Maybe I am thinking of like just the bye weeks in general, but I used to feel like they started in week 4.
I think they did, and they also didn't go as late because now that there's that extra game at the end of the season. So because we have week 13 bye weeks this year and last year, and that was a clusterfuck at the end. Like when you're like, oh shit, I don't have Tyreek Hill for week 13, and I need to get in the playoffs.
It sure as hell was. All right, well, let's just jump into the IDP stuff. Look, it was a good week for IDP. Some players we're kind of figuring out what's what and who's who. I just kind of want to start with our team, the Eagles, because a lot of people out there are really, really upset with Hassan Reddick. And I just keep telling people this is not the same defense that Jonathan Gannon was running. It's a different defense. It's mostly the same players, and they are still effective. It's just the highlights are in different places. The secondary and the upfront defensive tackles, those are the meat and potatoes of the defense. Now the linebackers and defensive ends, not as involved as they were with Gannon.
I actually have to disagree with you. I will agree that it is a different defense and offense. I think a lot of people are like, wow, the offense doesn't even look good. They're slow. They're not getting the shots that they had last year. It's a completely different coordinator, completely different play calling. Yep. Everything's different. Same with the defense. And honestly, Hassan Reddick dealt with that thumb issue going into the season. We kind of knew that. I didn't think it'd be this bad. We knew there would be a slouch for sure. We knew he would have less snaps. We have a huge rotation. Last year, we lost Burnett before the season even started. I would say do not give up on Reddick. I will say, I don't know what you guys said last week, but go buy him. I mean, don't start him right away, but go buy him.
We did not say anything.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm glad I'm here to talk about this. Reddick is the freest defensive end out there, and especially anyone who traded for him in the offseason or, have had him on the team last year, and you're sitting there like, yeah, man, he's going to get a sack a game again. And he will, just not yet, man. It's not that kind of pressure that they're using. I will say those defensive tackles are phenomenal, but even if you look at their stats, they're not like jumping off the page. It's what we have is a full healthy rotation.
They are jumping off the page,
but they're not.
You never know which
games.
You never know which ones it's going to be between Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. But one of the two of them is going to have a little bit of a pop off game. I mean, Jalen Carter is one of the best defensive tackles in the league right now, and he is a rookie. So that's just crazy. But you know what? That's the Eagles. That's Howie Roseman. That's the defense.
What I just wanted to say is it literally just comes down to the rotation, and we have a full rotation. Nolan Smith hasn't even been worked in yet, is the best part. So
yeah, he was in that Buccaneer game on Monday, and like he made one really good play where he chased down Baker from behind. And I was like, God, I cannot believe this team is all rookies. It's so wild. But back to Reddick, I guess what we kind of were hoping was that this week behind the Bucs O line, this would be the week that Hassan Reddick would probably get home because Baker is known in the past for taking sacks like nobody's business. We're kind of hoping this was the week, and we still come away with, kind of disappointed a little bit. Of course, he still is without a sack, and his tackle numbers aren't great yet. Now, what you were saying is I think this might be a perfect buy low opportunity because I'm sure through week 3, whoever has Hassan Reddick is expecting the Hassan Reddick from 2022. And you have an opportunity here where you might be able to leverage somebody that is popping off a little bit right now to go get him potentially, because that person is probably either fed up or you could probably convince him that the defense isn't the same and he's not going to be able to do the same things he did last year, which is just maybe not the case long term.
Yeah, no, it's going to be phenomenal in the future. If there's ever an injury to, a Brandon Graham or Sweat or anything, he's going to get more work. I mean, this is just a really fully healthy defensive line, and I would definitely buy Hassan Reddick right now. I'm not saying start him right away. Maybe look to see if there's some weak tackle, offensive, like do some research on offensive line, see who they're playing next week, see if they have a weak left or right tackle on that team who's given up 4 sacks last game. That would be the person I would target. That's the game I would target playing Hassan Reddick in. But at the same time, football's weird, man. Sometimes people have big seasons, sometimes people don't. Take it for a grain of salt, but you should be able to get Hassan Reddick pretty cheap. One person I wanted to talk about, someone I was excited about, because if you play in ESPN leagues, Isaiah Simmons has cornerback eligibility, which it doesn't matter. Because they kept saying, and I've seen, I don't know why I get so much fucking Giants news. I guess it's because of the NFC East, but I've been seeing multiple things about he's getting better. He's getting more snaps. He's going to get more in practice. And we're going to get the workload. The workload is literally exactly the same. It has not changed whatsoever. I think his snaps have been 15, 13, 23. He's had a tackle 2, 4. I mean, he's not getting a full workload. I know he's relatively new to the team. I'm not saying trade him or panic or anything. This is just one of those guys that's like, maybe the Cardinals didn't fleece the Giants like we thought they did. Maybe Isaiah Simmons is just okay.
Yeah, and I think my only pushback for that is like I think the Giants as a whole are in an identity crisis right now because it doesn't seem like anybody on that team knows what the hell is going on, which is weird because it's not like the coordinators left from last season. It's essentially the same thing they were doing. They didn't really add many new pieces. They did add Bobby Okereke to the team, so that is a different aspect. But for the most part, it's the same players. So why all of a sudden, we're having really bad games from most of the stars from the Giants? I don't really get it. I don't really get it at all. And Isaiah Simmons seemed like a perfect player for them to introduce into that defense and to use in a way that we're seeing other safeties being used in the league, and he's just not getting anything like that.
Yeah, and especially with their safeties not being what they used to be. I mean, Xavier McKinney's good, obviously. Pinnock, I mean, had flashy games. You thought that there'd be more of that nickelback role with him, and it's kind of sad. One person, just while we're here, not that there's any rhyme or reason what we're doing anyway, but Micah McFadden. I am so angry. So I picked him up after week 1. I was like, oh yeah, all right, man. Immediate start, like fucking 10 tackles week 1. Started in week 2. Should have probably known it's Arizona. I mean, you can't really expect much there, but they actually played pretty good. And sat in week 3, and then saw that 20 point on my bench. So super excited about him and the fact that he could do it alongside. Why am I blanking on my guy here?
Bobby Okereke.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. That's why I blanked. But yeah, so
no. Yeah, and what sucks is like Sleeper is still projecting him 0. So if you're playing on Sleeper and you're playing on IDP League, you're probably still thinking like, oh, well, that's weird. He's projected 0, so he must be like hurt or he's maybe not starting. And it's just because they're way behind and they're just not actually putting any kind of points towards him, which he is a starting linebacker. He is good to go in your lineup. He's good to start each week. I mean, he's it might be not 10 tackles every time, but it could be close to that. You could convince yourself of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I always get curious about how the 3-4 defenses, how the two inside linebackers will play off each other. And it seems like one is not hurting the other. One is not getting 15 tackles and one's getting 5. It looks like it's a pretty even split. McFadden's all over the field. Got to watch the San Francisco game. So excited to see it. Another person that is actually not been updated whatsoever, Terrell Bernard. And I got him in every single league, and I'm super excited. As you actually can see on the screen, it says my name if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, this guy is the new Tremaine Edmonds in Buffalo.
Mhm.
I feel like nobody's talking about him. I posted something on Twitter. Everyone was just like, shut up. Nobody cares about IDP. They didn't actually say that, but it felt like that whenever I posted it. But I just like, this was absolutely free. Sophomore coming out, first year, finally like getting the starting role, and he deserves it. And he deserves to be on rosters. And I'm hoping at this point, at least everyone has rostered him. But
Well, that's actually interesting that you bring that up, because in our Discord, a guy asked, "Hey, Terrell Bernard's on my waiver wire. Should I go pick him up?" And I was like, 1,000% go get him, because he's not going to be available for too much longer. If the fact that he still is means people aren't totally paying attention yet. But like, this isn't fluky. It's a trend. We're seeing a trend now. It's not like a 1 week pop situation.
yeah, no, absolutely. Just super excited about that. And I mean, he's right there. He's just doing what a middle linebacker would do. The interceptions and the extra stuff reminds me of a very Devin White type statistic where, he's getting 6, 7, 11 tackles a game. Those interceptions, those fumble recoveries, those sacks, those add up. And those are the best to have for a, linebacker, or, especially a young guy who got for free, basically didn't invest heavily in the IDP on the draft or something. So
for sure. Well, let me talk about my guys, because I have two I'm really excited about. One, Kyle Hamilton is officially broken out. He had a game for the ages on Sunday, and it was incredible. This right here, everyone, is exactly the kind of guy. Like, this is exactly who we thought Kyle Hamilton was going to be coming out. Like, we hoped they were going to use him in this capacity, and it's exactly what he did. And I couldn't be happier, and I'm hoping that they continue to use him in this way, because this is the guy that you should be getting. Now, is it going to be 3 sacks? No, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, I would just say the fact of this, the sacks are amazing. Seeing blitzing safeties, that game was crazy and kind of boring as it was, but seeing Kyle Hamilton makes me excited. There's a lot of people out there that don't watch, don't care about IDP. So they're like, I'm actually sitting there like, who got the sack? Who was that? Like, cause all the number changes, it's still pretty early in the year. And I'm like, I don't know who that was or whatever. And I was like, oh, Kyle Hamilton. And I learned his number really quick, and I didn't need to double check anymore. It was like, oh, that was Kyle again. Oh, again. And people are like, oh, why do you care about that? I have the Baltimore Ravens defense and I'm getting the sack. Well, this is why I love IDP, because it's way better when you have the guy who goes for 3 sacks in a game, especially as a safety position. Just phenomenal.
For sure. Well, and speaking of safeties, another one I want to bring up is Dax Hill for Cincinnati. First of all, he's had 10 tackles in a game this season. The past game that they just played on Monday, he had a sack in the game when they were playing the Rams. He seems to be the guy. Like, I know they got Jordan Battle, and I know everybody got excited right away, putting him on their waiver wire, asking us who is going to be the starting safety here. Is it going to be Battle? Is he going to win over Dax Hill? And no, Dax Hill was a first rounder out of Michigan. They drafted him for a reason. And when, I forgot his name, but he left to go to Atlanta.
Yes,
he was the safety Bates. When Bates left, Hill was going to be the guy, and he is coming and already is showing what he can be. And I'm excited. I hope everybody bought him. If he's available if you're in season long leagues, go get him now, because he is a steady. Now, his ceiling might not be huge, but his floor is going to be enough. I think that you're going to get good value this entire season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we actually had this whole discussion about it on one of the live streams that we did. And I think I messed up and said Jesse Bates, and someone was like Dax Hill. And then Joe literally goes, that's the guy. Like that's who you're going to want. And I am excited about Jordan Battle, but it might be a situation where like Dax Hill, where it's next year, or Kyle Hamilton, where it's next year. I mean, it's not always a rookie year. Especially for defensive players on a pretty depth filled team. I can understand. I have Battle on a couple leagues. I want him to do good, but take the win here, And speaking of an actual breakout safety, we got Brian Branch. And if I was on the podcast last week, I'd have told you to start him, and it was worth it. Obviously, the interception touchdown boosted his stats week 1, playing in that kind of limited role. But once CJ went down, Branch is the starter now on that team. And I'm pretty sure Kirby Joseph got injured in that game as well. So it's literally Brian Branch and Tracy Walker now hopefully, like I was gonna say, hopefully you didn't get rid of your Tracy Walker stocks just yet, because even he is relevant at the moment. But Brian Branch was all over that field. I know the numbers, other than the tackles, didn't look super sexy, but if you watch that game at all, you know that Brian Branch was making a huge impact. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to just go pick him up right now, or probably really even want to trade for him. But just wanted to, flex on that Brian Branch coming through. So happy
Hey,
to
as
see it. Nice rookie.
long as he is filling in, he is a very playable player. I mean, we've gotten some questions in the Discord and in the chat about Brian Branch. And like, while nobody wants to commit 100%, I don't think he's going to, you can't keep him off the field forever. The first game that he played, pick 6. Like, that was immediately like, okay, Brian Branch is here and he's not going to go away. And now he's just been good in his fill-in capacity. And yeah, if you don't have him already, you're probably not going to get him. But the injuries, people coming back from those are kind of interesting, though, like CJ.
Well, speaking of, it's a perfect segue into some returning injured vets. Let's get into the most, I guess, probably the biggest defensive injury in the week 3 would be Devin Lloyd, who is missing at least 2 games at this point, which brings into Chad Muma, who is the replacement. Now, obviously, the numbers didn't pop off right away, but I think that with this, I mean, Lloyd played the majority of the game. So, I mean, with this, though, I mean, the numbers usually just translate directly to the next player. And at this point, I think it's going to be Muma. And against Atlanta, who is 100% run, can't even try to throw the ball if they try. Muma should have a big game, and I think he's very startable this week.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Jags defense as a whole has been really down this year, so maybe having Muma in the lineup will, as a starter, will actually maybe like boost the entire defense up. It would be nice if they would start playing. This Jags team was supposed to be a lot better than they are now, but the fact that Muma is going to get a shot in there to actually, get the start, I think that this is a good spot for him in London to get back on track.
Not to hate on the Jaguars too much, they actually played really good against Indy and KC. They just randomly got roasted by CJ Stroud. Like, I don't want to say randomly because CJ Stroud did it, but they actually only let the Chiefs score 17 points, and that was with the return of Travis Kelce. You'd think
it's
that
true. I just mean like stats wise, like Olakun's having a great season, but everybody else has kind of not been so well. Other than that, Devondre Campbell's out this week. It looks like I would not suggest starting Isaiah McDuffie. If you need somebody to start, Isaiah McDuffie is a good call, but I think there's probably someone better on your roster or on the waiver wire that you can go grab real quick, which actually brings me to my other person, which is Henry Toyo, who is covering for Denzel Perryman right now. And I personally think Denzel has stolen this job from Perryman. I personally think that. I thought that before the season going into camp. I knew it was going to take a couple games, mind you, but I thought this guy was going to win the job straight out. It's taken him a couple games and an injury to get in there, but I don't think he's going to relinquish it. I mean, he's getting 10 tackles a game almost, and he's snap share is going up and up each week, and I don't know how he gives the job up by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, his snaps have doubled each game so far. I mean, at this point, obviously, I don't think he can double anymore because I don't think they're going to play 120 snaps. But I'm really glad you brought him up because I don't know how to pronounce anyone's name, much less this one. But Toyo, nice to know. Big fan of this guy. Honestly, fun. Not a college football guy, so I found out about this guy through Madden NFL draft, and he ended up on my team, and he was phenomenal. Stupid reason, but always loved this guy, and happy to see him actually break out and come through here. Who's the other linebacker on this team that I am not thinking of right now? Christian Harris. Yes. And he has not had a great time so far. Technically listed as an outside linebacker, but that sack week 1, I actually started him that week and then didn't get much from him after that. So, but honestly, it's Toyo, and I don't think this job goes back to anyone else. Like, Perryman's obviously a pretty good linebacker, had himself pretty decent games. I don't want to say cut him by any means, but Toyo, the way he's playing, there's no way you can excuse to not have him on the field, basically.
Well, and one reason I just want everybody out there to know, like, this isn't just like us saying, oh, he's had a couple good games, start him. D'Amico Ryans drafted this guy in the 5th round. D'Amico Ryans, when they were in San Francisco, took a 5th round linebacker in Aziz Al-Shair, and he took a 5th round linebacker in Dre Greenlaw. and made them into stars in the IDP space. And he drafted Henry Toyo in the 5th round. He's going to make him a star in the IDP space. Like, this is D'Amico Ryans and what he likes to do. So it's not just random. He's having a couple good games. Like, I think this is an actual like sign of things to come.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Perryman's been around. It's not like he's going to not have a role anymore. It's just going to be part of Toyo's at this point. And then another person that's dead, Van Der Esch, not injured, I don't think at all. Just it's done. Last year was cool without Jalen Smith. Van Der Esch actually did shine pretty well, but this year is not it. And I don't even know who's getting the tackles on this defense, because it's Donovan Wilson has been out until last week and didn't really play all that great. I don't know who's getting the tackles for the Cowboys, or if they're even making tackles after last game, but at the moment, Van Der Esch should not be anywhere near a lineup that you're even thinking about starting. I'm a big fan of Van Der Esch, always have been, but right now it's just not a great time for him.
Yeah, the tackle leaders on the Cowboys right now are Dron Curse, Damone Clark, which Damone Clark was our guy that we thought, and Marquise Bell. Oh, he's a safety.
That's not a lot of tackles, though. He's a leading tackler on this team, and that's like 13, 14 tackles. Wild.
Yep. It is true so far.
Cowboys just not having a great time. Sorry, Cowboys fans out there. I'm not trying to piss you off. Just naturally do.
All right. Well, one more person I wanted to bring up that is officially back. That is Aiden Hutchinson. First 2 games was extremely slow. There were a lot of like murmurs about like, I mean, can we drop him? Or, I mean, is he not going to have a good break? You know, is he going to have a sophomore slump? Well, he said to go to hell with that, and he came back and immediately was a very, very good option against Atlanta, which maybe that's just going to be what it is this year. When you play a team that's heavy run, you're going to get a chance to have a pop-off game like he just had against Atlanta with only, I mean, you can see it if you're watching on YouTube, 56% snaps, and he was able to have a 30-point game. Like, that's insane.
I think that's actually the snap numbers, not the percentage. I don't know why Sleeper does that. Yeah.
I was like, if that's 50, which I was
that's
already
like
I can't even believe
snaps.
that, but
yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, you know.
No, I do have that issue on Sleepers sometimes. Oh, 100%. I 100% agree with you. I think, honestly, what you're going to see now is literally just anyone who's playing Atlanta pass rushers. You're going to have a good time. Desmond Ridder does not know what he's doing back there. Obviously, he's making it look okay with Bijan and him catching, 6-7 balls out of the backfield. But Ritter's going to get sacked a lot. I think he might, if he plays the full season, he'll be the most sacked quarterback, but I personally think he'll get pulled before that. So, well, I don't know.
We'll get into that in the preview pod. I've got a couple of people I need I have a bone to pick with.
No way. You have a bone to pick with Atlanta. That's just shocking.
It's not just Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's finally getting to what, I thought they were going to be, but like there's a couple others that we need to get to.
One more person I wanted to talk about before we wrap this up. Jerome Baker, not having the season to, remember at the moment. But I just want to remind you that it's hard to run against a team when you're down by 50 points. So do not cut or do anything with Jerome Baker. Honestly, I personally have him as a trade target right now because of his, recent dip is what it seems, at least. Especially if you look at snaps, you're like, oh man, he didn't even play a full game last week. People aren't going to remember the 70-20 route that happens in 3 or 4 weeks. But this is the time to buy Jerome Baker, personally. I think you're pretty much going to get what you see in week 1, at least every week. And they're eventually going to be in close games. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they have not played a very good team yet. So New England maybe, and obviously a little bit better. Chargers defense, don't really count it personally. But yeah, so Buffalo coming in, I think super run heavy, going to tackle Josh Allen a couple times, whether it's a sack or not, I don't know. And then, whatever running back they actually do deploy that week, Jerome Baker should have a pretty good time. So just want to let you know that it's not fret yet. It's week 3. I know people are worried about him.
Yeah, I know the worry is getting out there, but yeah, just give him time. He'll bounce back. There's no problem with that. Okay, well, let's end this podcast with a couple of just overall surprises that we've had in the NFL so far. And I will start. I know the couple that you have, but I will start with my biggest surprise so far, and that is Puka Nacua from the Rams. Look, if you would have asked me before the season, is Puka Nacua going to basically lead the NFL in targets through week 3? I'd have been like, no, there's no way in the world. And I don't think anybody could have told you he was going to be basically Cooper Kupp reincarnated. But he has been just incredible this entire season. And I really think that even when Cooper Kupp comes back, he is going to be fine. This Rams offense was able to both support Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and Puka Nacua is still fit to play the Robert Woods role in the offense. They can still keep either Van Jefferson or Tutu Atwell out there, but I think Tutu gets booted back to the bench, Van Jefferson on the outside, Puka Nacua in that like Robert Woodsy role, and then Cooper Kupp can be in the slot as he usually does. I don't think he's going to drop off too much because I think Matt Stafford trusts him, which once you have his trust, apparently that means you're going to get fed.
Yeah, we didn't get the report that he ate breakfast with Matt Stafford this year, which is kind of unfortunate. But no, it's nice to see Matt Stafford find someone else. You know what I mean? Like after Cooper Kupp went down last year, they just like Stafford, nothing, and then end of the season for him. So
yeah,
I do like to see this, and honestly, he's feeding Atwell pretty well too. I feel bad for all those Van Jefferson stands out there, but it didn't work out for you. But Puka did. And it's phenomenal. Seeing the targets, just 20 targets. Those are Cooper Kupp targets. And yeah, maybe those won't happen, but I think week 3 numbers would pretty much be pretty consistent. And I don't think they're going anywhere, even with Kupp back. And not to mention, we don't know when Kupp's coming back. They were so vague about everything. So this could go on for 3 or 4
said
weeks.
After next week, he's going to be back. That's what Sean McVay is tentatively saying, but it's a hamstring injury. He had to go out of state to get it checked out. Like, Lord only knows what that actually means.
Well, I know this has just been beaten into the ground all around, but we're going to switch gears here and just talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, I know how to pronounce his name. I think he's been one of my biggest surprises this year. Commanding an offense like he did, not in week 3, but in weeks 1 and 2. Week 3 didn't need any commanding. The Broncos just let him walk all over him. Obviously, A-Chain and Mostert won a lot of fantasy football weeks last week. Tua might have as well because these 40-point games. I kind of like Tua now. I mean, it's just interesting to watch. I'm not looking forward to him when they play the Eagles week 8 or 7, whenever that is. But this is my biggest surprise. Not only has he stayed healthy, which is, the best part about all of this team.
One sack this year.
1 sack. Playing out of his mind. I mean, the completions to attempt ratio is phenomenal. He literally missed 3 incompletions last week. Sacked only 1 time this whole time. Couple interceptions, but that's bound to happen. One of those was literally an underthrow by Tyreek Hill, which I did nail. But I think I got to eat my words on Tua. This team, not only just Tyreek Hill, is phenomenal. This team is a good team, and it's going to be pretty scary for the AFC. I would not want to see this team fully healthy in the playoffs. If I'm any
well, he's getting it out as fast as Tom Brady used to, and he throws it as accurately as Drew Brees did. And having those 2 things together in the same quarterback is very dangerous. And look, I would love to say that this is all Tua and that Tua was always going to be this guy, but it's hard not to think that Mike McDaniel isn't basically like using, a guy that has like an artillery and he is just using what weapon works the best. I know that their players are actually doing it, so I don't want to take the credit away from them, but this is insane by Mike McDaniel, some of the schemes that he's coming up with. I mean, look what he just did to the Broncos. Like that doesn't happen. We haven't seen 70 points in a game since 1966. I mean, these are professional athletes at the height of, the sport. 70 points, like a college football game that people hate so much. Like, oh, I hate seeing those scores in the college because that'll never happen in the NFL. We just saw it. Like, it's crazy.
To be fair, part of that ending score was A-Chain's fault, who was supposed to be running the clock out and broke off a 60-yarder and made like 5 people fall over.
If they're going to let you do that, then you've got to punish them.
I mean, as a rookie, you cannot not take a touchdown there. I mean, exactly. I know it's kind of like, oh, you're not supposed to pour salt in the wound. I'm sorry, man. Be a little bit better. 70 points.
I wish they would have broken the record. People are going to forget about this game like in 10 years. But had they gone for the field goal and gotten 73 in a game and they would have been the record, people would remember it more. So I think they should have put the foot back on the pedal. It's their job to stop you. They're getting paid millions of dollars to stop you from scoring.
I
Like
100% agree with you,
it's
man.
the job. They even put Mickey Blanco out there. Mickey Blanco tore him up for a 60-something yard touchdown to Robbie Chosen.
Robbie Chosen. I forgot about the Chosen. And he burnt Sertan.
Oh, yeah, I know.
That's embarrassing.
It's demoralizing for sure.
All
Yeah.
right, one more. Let's get out of here. We got a whole lot to do.
Yeah, we do. We sure do. Actually, I just want one of my biggest surprises this year. I didn't tell you this one beforehand. Is the Bengals. Look, I did not expect Joe Burrow to come into the season as hurt as he's been. He's still not playing great. I'm not gonna lie. For fantasy purposes, he's almost unusable, which is just not good.
I just started Jordan Love last week, man. It was fucking rough.
I do think eventually he gets back into groove, but after getting one of the highest contract in the history of the league, this is not quite what Bengals fans wanted to see coming out of the gates. Now they did win against the Rams, so you just would want to see more than this because he's been very, very bad this season.
Yeah, and honestly, was this a rush job on getting him back, or was it really just a retweak? Because I mean, he looked bad week 1, and I think they said he retweaked it week 2. So it looks not good at all. I know he plays bad against Cleveland, so I'm gonna just count that one as a wash. And then week 2 looked pretty good, so maybe he did really retweak it week 3 and just played like shit week 1 because he hadn't played for a while. So I don't know.
Glad he got better. Chase back involved.
Yeah, I mean, at least Chase got involved. But if you look at his numbers and then you subtract Chase's numbers, it's not great. 141, 259. That's 110 yards. That wasn't Jamar Chase through the air, at least.
Yeah. Well, in completions, he had 26, and 14 of them were Chase.
Yeah. Interesting times, man. I'm looking forward to seeing Burrow come back, but at the same time, it is looking really bad. And that was one of my lock quarterbacks this year too. And then obviously the injury happened. I was like, well, maybe you won't get him for the first 2 weeks. Maybe not get him at all at this point. I hope not.
Yeah.
Rough.
He's not been the biggest disappointment, and we will get into that in the preview podcast. But all right. Well, that's all I think we got for the IDP portion of the podcast. If y'all have any questions and you're watching on YouTube, please leave them in the comment section below, and we will get to them next week. We did have one question from last week that we needed to briefly mention, and that was, is Ivan Pace Jr. a long-term answer in Dynasty? My answer would be yes. I've liked how they've used him so far. They've been looking for a linebacker to take over for Kendricks after he went to the Chargers, and Ivan Pace is playing out of his mind so far.
Yeah, been playing phenomenally. I think really you're not going to see it as much this year. Obviously the numbers look fine this year. I mean, you'll have some blow-up games, but I don't think you're going to see the consistency really until next year when Hicks is more than likely gone. But yes, Pace does appear to be that guy. I think grab him, put him on your taxi squad, maybe even start him week to week. Think about it like a team like Philly, he had eight tackles and a half a sack against. I mean, that's the perfect type of team to play him against. If they happen to play, they play Atlanta week 9. That's a fucking put him in. He's going to be blitzing and getting tackles. Lock right there. Lock him in for week 8, 4 weeks beforehand. Obviously, I'll please check beforehand if you're listening to this.
For sure. But if you have a question on the YouTube, please leave it in the questions below or the comments below, and we will get to it next week. So, Josh, get us out of here.
We'll see you next time.